Hey guys, thank you for joining me for another online yoga video. Today's yoga practice is going to be yoga for a rainy day. Here in South Wales, it has been raining a lot the last couple of days, and also being in another lockdown, it can be hard to feel motivated to kind of get up and move. So this short practice is designed to feel good. It's a cozy practice. We're not going to be moving too much, so make sure you get into something warm, something cozy, maybe light a candle, put some chilled out music on if you'd like, and we're going to get into it and start stretching. As I said, we're not going to be doing too much dynamic movement, but you might want a couple of blocks to help you go a little bit deeper into the postures. That's up to you. I really hope you enjoy your class today. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste. Okay, so we're going to start in our seated position. I'm going to sit up on a block just to make sure that I can nicely and firmly ground down through my foundations. Feel heavy through the sit bones, heavy through the pelvis, and then begin to lengthen up through the crown of the head. Feel the space between each vertebrae of the spine beginning to lengthen. Create that length on the inhale. As we expand, we lift the chest up and create space around the collarbone. As we exhale, we allow the shoulders to draw down and away from the ears. You can rest your hands on your knees on your lap, or if you'd like, you can take chin mudra, connecting the index finger and the thumb, with the remaining 3 fingers stretched out in front and facing the palms upwards. If you feel stable, just close the eyes. Begin to connect to the sound of the breath, creating that ocean-like sound in the breathing as we create the restriction to the back of the throat. Try to lengthen the inhales to match the exhales. Drawing the awareness away from the external world by closing the eyes, tuning in to the more subtle sensations you're feeling within the body. And anytime you feel your mind beginning to drift away, just softly bring it back to the sound of the breath. Take one more deep breath in through the nose. Hold it at the top. Exhale, let it go through the mouth. Bring the palms together at the heart center. Softly blinking the eyes open. Namaste. Okay, so this is going to be a relatively short practice. We're just going to start with our spinal warm-up to make sure we've moved in all directions. We're going to tune in how we're feeling within the body, any places where you're feeling tension, sensation, or restriction. Just be mindful of these areas. Try not to force yourself into these places, especially with the cold weather and the dark, cold, long days. It can be hard to move the body, so it may feel a little bit tighter than perhaps it ordinarily would. So don't force it. Just go with the breath. Use the breath as a tool to go deeper into the postures, but never force it. You shouldn't be feeling pain, restriction, or tightness in any of the postures. So we're just going to come into our cross legs position. If you had the legs crossed already, you might want to just change the cross of the legs. Bring the right hand to the outside of the right hip. As we inhale, reach up through the left fingertips. As we exhale, side bend over to the right. You can look up towards the fingers if it feels good on the neck, on the head. Getting a nice stretch to the neck and the left side ribs. Inhale, come up through center, reach up. Exhale, left hand to the outside of the left hip. Inhale, extend through those right fingertips. Exhale, side bend over to the left. Getting a nice stretch, space around the right shoulder. Avoid it collapsing up by the ear, but keep a nice bit of space along the top of the shoulder. Inhale, come up through center, reach. Exhale, right hand to the outside of the right hip, left hand towards the right knee. On your inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale to twist, beginning to look out over your right shoulder. So as we twist, we engage the lower belly, we lift the navel center, and make sure the twist comes from the upper back, the ribs, and you're not feeling any sharp or pinching sensation in the lower back. If you are, just ease out of the twist, don't take it so forcefully. Inhale, come up through center, reach, soft through the shoulders. Exhale, left hand to the outside of the left hip, right hand towards the left knee. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale to twist, looking out over the left shoulder. Grounding down through the sit bones. Don't move into the full range of motion, but just working until we feel a nice stretch around the ribs. Try to breathe deep into this stretch, expanding, creating space on the inhale. Maybe going a little bit deeper as you exhale. And then inhale, come through center, reach up, extend. Exhale, release the hands down. We're going to come into our tabletop position on our hands and knees. So wrists under shoulders, fingers spread nice and wide, knees under hips, feet flat out behind you, tops of the feet pressing firmly into the mat. As we inhale, we open up through cow pose. Lift the crown of the head, the chest presses forward, belly drops down, tailbone reaches up. As we exhale, we round the spine into cat. Lift and separate those shoulder blades as the crown of the head releases down. Take a couple more of each at your own pace. Follow your own rhythmic breathing. Throughout the entire practice today, let your movement match your breath. How are you feeling in the length of the spine? How are you feeling in the knees and the wrists? If you're feeling pain, remember you can always support the knees with a cushion. And then on your next inhale, come back to a neutral spine. We're going to come into a low lunge position. So bring the right foot to the space between the hands. You can keep your left knee under the left hip, either on the mat or supported by a cushion, or you can bring the knee back a couple of inches. So you're getting a deeper stretch in that left hip flexor, the front of the left thigh. Stay here with the fingertips rooting into the earth, or if it's a little too much distance, just bring the fingertips towards the blocks. You really want to be lifting through the chest, so avoid kind of hanging out here, collapsing on the right thigh. Instead, stay lifted. Feel the belly peeling off the front thigh. Keep nice and tall through the spine, and the chest is pressing forwards. Keep the right knee stacked over the right ankle, and avoid the knee from rolling side to side. So you want it to be in line with the second and the third toe. You don't want to be bumping the hips off to the left. And you're welcome to stay here, or interlace the fingers, place the palms of the hands firmly into the top of the thigh, lengthening the spine. So if this is still uncomfortable in the knee, the back knee, you're welcome to tuck the toes under, charge that heel back and lift. It's a slightly more energetic, active building posture, but it should release the tension on the knee. So make sure that you take that option if you're feeling pain. Also, tucking the toes under can help reduce the stress on the knee joint. So with the inhales, we create the space, we lengthen through the vertebrae. As we exhale, we sink the hips a little bit lower. Maybe we can get deeper into the front of that left hip flexor. We also don't want to be overarching in the lower back. So there's a little bit of an arch in the upper back. We want the chest to be expanding forwards, but what we don't want is the lower back to be compressing. So imagine that your tailbone, the sacrum, the flat part of the pelvis, is actually reaching down towards the floor. And you're staying active through the legs, even as you sink a bit lower. On your inhale, moving into a twist, bring the palms together at the heart center. Exhale, hook the outer edge of the left elbow towards the outer edge of the right thigh. Bring the thumbs towards the sternum and looking out over the right shoulder. If this is too much, bring the left hand to the inside of the foot and just begin to look back with the right hand on the right thigh. We want to imagine that the left ribs are spinning round towards the right thigh. Make sure you're mindful of that left knee as well. No pain or sharp sensation in the knee joint. Try to breathe deep. It's really restrictive here to breathe deep, but breathing through that restriction, through that tightness, is going to help us go a little bit deeper in the future. Inhale, look to center, come back up, bring the palms through heart center. Exhale, bring both hands down towards the floor. From here, we're going to move into a pigeon pose. So we're going to heel toe the right foot over towards the left side of the mat. We're going to drop the right knee down. Okay, so from here, you can keep that foot where it is, the right foot, or you can bring the right heel more towards the left hip joint. Okay, so a couple of options. They give you a different kind of stretch, whichever one you're in. You can also place a block underneath the right thigh here for support if that right hip doesn't quite reach the floor. Take a deep breath in, and then exhale. Maybe you can drop forward onto the forearms, or maybe the crown of the head or the forehead reaches down towards the earth. Keep steady through the breath. With the inhales, we still continue to create space. We lengthen the tailbone away. And with the exhale, maybe we can allow ourselves to go a little bit deeper. So we want to stay nice and tall through the spine. Avoid kind of rounding through the pelvis. You're going to get more of a benefit if you begin to extend, lengthen through the spine, and the tops of the hip bones begin to drop down towards the earth. If you're feeling any pain or discomfort in the knee, please take a different variation. You're also welcome to come onto your back. I'll leave a little demo picture of that up in the corner. Inhale. Very gently walk the hands back up. Release the block if you had it. And then very gently, we're going to tuck the toes under on the left foot. We're going to come back to that tabletop position. Just shake out the hips. And then we're going to do all of that on the other side. So bringing the left foot to the space between the hands. You can keep your back knee at kind of like this 90-degree angle with the knee under the hip, or you can extend that right leg backwards a little bit. You should feel this deepens the stretch in the front of the right thigh. Keep the left knee stacked over the left ankle in line with the second and third toes. Stay lifted on the fingertips or place the hands to blocks. Keep the chest lifted, avoid collapsing through the upper back, avoid resting on the front leg, but stay active, pressing through the foot of the left leg. Stay lifted, stay open through the chest. It's actually quite a strong posture. Remember, you can tuck the toes under on the right foot. You're also welcome, if you'd like to add the balancing posture, interlace the fingers, place the palms onto the top of the left thigh. Begin to extend through the arms so the chest lifts without locking out the elbows. As you lift the chest, make sure that the movement doesn't sort of collapse into the lower back, but we open through the upper body, the upper back, and we continue to keep the low belly drawn in, peeling off the left thigh and lengthening through the tailbone, the sacrum, so that the lower back doesn't compress. Continue here to sink down in the left hip. Inhale, create space. Exhale, sink a little bit lower, maybe deepening the stretch in the right thigh. And also welcome, remember, tuck the toes under on the right foot. Lift the kneecap up off the floor. This should stop any pain or sensation you're feeling in the right knee. Or just keep the toes tucked. Moving into the twist now. Inhale, bring the palms together at the heart center, thumbs to sternum. Exhale to twist, hooking the outer edge of the right arm to the outer edge of the left thigh, looking up or back. You're also welcome to just bring the right hand to the floor on the inside of the left foot, left hand to the thigh, and look over the left shoulder. We want to continue to lengthen the spine here. So with the inhales, we also create that space. As we exhale, maybe we allow ourselves to twist a little bit deeper. Make sure the movement's coming from the upper back, as if the right ribs are trying to connect to the left thigh, but not the lower back. The pelvis is staying neutral. Both hip bones, the fronts of the pelvis, are facing the short edge of the mat. Inhale. Come through center. Exhale, bring both hands down to the floor on either side of the left foot. Heel toe the left foot over towards the right side of the mat as the left knee draws down towards the left wrist. Okay, you can stay with this variation. The ankle, the shin parallel with the short edge of the mat. Or you can bring the left ankle towards the right hip bone, okay? Pelvis stays squared to the front edge of the mat. You're welcome to stay here, or if the sit bone doesn't quite reach the floor, place the block underneath the left hip, inhaling. On the exhale, maybe drop down to the forearms, or maybe the forehead or the crown of the head can reach down towards the earth. Remember to modify. I'll leave again a little picture in the top corner so you can see what the modification looks like. You shouldn't be feeling any pain in the knee or the ankle. You should be feeling a nice gentle stretch in the left gluteal, the left outer hip. Continue to breathe. Let the breath guide you into a place of stillness. Find almost like a meditative state as you draw the awareness away from the external world, the external sounds, and tune into just the breathing. Let your eyes, your gaze rest on one single point and avoid moving the eyes around too much. Stay focused, stay centered. On your inhale, walk the hands back up. Release the block from underneath your left hip, if you had it. And then tuck the toes under on the right. We're going to press back to that tabletop position. Shake out the hips. Good. Fantastic. And then we're going to come into a nice seated position. So sit back to the heels, shift the hips off to one side and extend the legs out in front. So we're going to start off with a seated forward fold to open up through the hamstrings, open up through the backs of the legs. So bring the hands to the outside of the hips, tune in to how you're feeling here. Is it a struggle to keep the spine straight? If it is, just bend the knees a little bit. If you're here comfortable and you think, I can stay here nice and tall, then as we exhale, so we inhale fully, and then as we exhale, we begin to make the rotation from the pelvis. So the hip bones, the front of the pelvis come forward. You can bring your hands to the thighs, the shins, the feet, but make sure that the movement's not happening from the lower back. So a good indication if it's happening from the lower back is that your pelvis will be tilting backwards. And it will feel like you have to really use your core to kind of reach forward. You almost become in this kind of cat position where you're really reaching, your back is rounding. So instead, see if you can lift the chest, let the chest lead the movement, keep the lower belly drawn in, and isolate the movement from the pelvis as you shift forward. Okay, and then from there, take hands to the thighs, shins, or to the feet. Keep the low belly drawn in, bring the isolation movement from the pelvis, and see if you can shift the center of gravity forwards. So after a while, it will become more comfortable to be here. Should be feeling it in the backs of the legs. If you are feeling any sharp pain or sensation in the lower back, or you've had trouble with your sacroiliac joint, the lower back joints before, then you can always keep a nice big bend in the knees. Okay, make sure to keep the spine super straight. Okay, and just work with that. Seated forward folds can be postures that aggravate the lower back a little bit, so be mindful, don't force. Inhale, lengthen the spine, look forward, head up. Exhale fully. Inhale, come all the way up, reach up through the fingertips, look up, and exhale, release down. We're going to get a nice stretch to the inner thighs now, the adductor muscles. So we're going to draw both knees in towards the chest. And we're going to bring the soles of the feet together. Bring the heels in as close towards the groin as you can, and then bring the hands to the outside of the hips. You can either tent the fingers or rest the palms of the hands firmly into the mat, depending on the length of the arms. Breathe in fully. And then on the exhale, you can stay here if you're struggling to keep the spine straight, or you can begin to gently tip forward. So bringing the fingertips or the palms of the hands into the earth, pressing the weight forward. If you're quite comfortable with this position, you're welcome to bring the hands to the feet. Try to really focus on pressing the little toe side of the feet together. Bring the elbows back towards the hip creases and then lengthen the spine forward. Imagine that the movement's initiating from the chest as we lengthen. Bring the chin down as opposed to collapsing the crown of the head down. Breathe fully. And then inhale, coming all the way back up. Bring the knees to the center line. Exhale, release the legs out long. We're going to come into a wide version now. So bringing the feet to a comfortably wide distance. So for me, that's kind of 90 degrees-ish. Maybe that's a bit wider for you, a bit narrower for you. But you want to be feeling a stretch in the inner thighs. Maybe the hamstrings as well, the backs of the legs. Maybe the gluteal muscles, the outsides of the hips are feeling a stretch here. Bring the hands to the outside of the hips, lengthen, or fingertips again is welcome. And then as we exhale, we begin to tip forward, only if you feel nice and tall through the spine here. Over time, maybe you can bring the forearms down towards either the blocks or the earth, but just check in. You want your toes and your knees to be facing up towards the ceiling. You, once again, want the movement to be coming from the pelvis. So you want the hip bones to be dropping forward as the sit bones begin to roll backwards. Try to avoid this movement happening from the lower back. Be aware if you're kind of in that cat position where the pelvis is tipping backwards and you're really having to use your core to get forward here, that's not going to be helping. Instead, just work with lengthening from an upright position. And then inhale, begin to walk the hands back up to center. Take a nice soft grip from the back of the knees. Bring the knees back to center. Extend the legs out long and shake out the legs. Well done. We're going to come into a little back bend now. We're going to take Setu Bandhasana, which is bridge pose. So you're welcome to have a block if you'd like for supported bridge. Otherwise, you can do it without the block. So you're going to bring... So you're going to bring your body back onto the mat into a lying down position. Bring the heels in towards the sit bones. So the ankles underneath the knees stay at hips distance apart. The toes face inwards towards each other very slightly. Bring the arms alongside the body with the palms face down. And then as we inhale, try to lengthen through the lower back. So you want the lower back to almost be pressing in towards the earth as we lift the hips up towards the sky. Okay, once you're at the top, see if you can soften the glutes. Avoid overusing them. For some people, squeezing the glutes can cause pain in the lower back. For others, it can actually relieve the pain. So if it helps, you can squeeze the glutes, but try to avoid becoming reliant on them. Okay, you're welcome to stay here. If you have a block, you can place the block underneath the sacrum, which is the flat part of the spine, just above the pelvis or just on the pelvis. If you wanted to take it deeper, then you can interlace the fingers behind the back, roll onto the tops of the shoulders, interlace the fingers, and expand through the chest. Bring the chest towards the chin as the chin continues to press away from the chest. Press firmly through the backs of the arms and the back of the head. Make sure there's no strain in the neck. Make sure the knees aren't collapsing out to the side and they're staying at hips distance apart. Try to breathe fully into the ribs, even as it gets more challenging the deeper you move into the back bend. One more full breath in. And then exhale, release the block, release the bind. And very gently come back down onto the earth. Just draw the knees in towards the chest very loosely. You want the entire length of the spine to continue to ground down into the earth, and just gently shake from side to side. Or roll side to side, I should say. Hopefully feeling a little bit more open, a little bit more calm than you were at the start of the practice. These rainy days, it can feel hard to get the motivation to do much, but just getting on your mat for 5-10 minutes, having a little move around, having a little wiggle, should help you within your body and within your mind as well to stay focused and stay calm. It doesn't have to be much to be a worthwhile practice. Okay, and then we're just going to release the feet down. We're going to come into our last posture before rest, which is reclined bound angle, Supta Baddha Konasana. Bring the left hand to the heart, the right hand to the belly. Close the eyes and begin to feel the expansion of the breath. So release the low belly. Feel the breath now beginning to travel fully into the abdomen, the low belly. Begin to find stillness in the mind as you observe the breath. Observe the sensations you're feeling, the coolness of the inhales as they travel through the nose, and the warmth of the exhales. Feeling this powerful, beautiful energy circulating around the body, feeling the heart beating with the left hand. And I recommend, if they weren't already, that you begin to close the eyes. Soften through the jaw, soften through the forehead. Soften through the shoulders, the backs of the arms. The rain is getting heavier where I am. truly feeling very cozy today. You're welcome to stay here if this is comfortable for you. Or if you like to rest in Shavasana, you can draw your knees to center. Extend the legs long, bring the feet out wide. Bring the arms alongside the body, palms face up. Allow the fingertips to curl in towards the palms of the hands. Feel heavy through the body, soft through the jaw, the forehead. Feel each individual part of your body beginning to solidify and sink in towards the earth, the mat. Allow the breath to travel freely, without restriction or force. Allow the mind to stay peaceful, quiet. Any thoughts, emotions, or stories that crop up in your Shavasana, just let them go, let them drift on, and stay present. I recommend you stay in your Shavasana for as long as you have the time for today. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. As you go forward, I wish you peace in your thoughts, peace in your words, peace in your heart. Namaste.